Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode here at Tribal Trades, the daily show. And today we're going to digest the events of yesterday's Fed Powell speech at Jackson Hole. And the title of today's show is, does this change everything, or does this even change anything? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a whole bunch more. Before we do that, smash the like button. This does help get this channel out to more people, does help support the channel. And if you're new, welcome. Smash that subscribe button and you'll get the daily updates. So first of all, let's look at what happened at the Jackson Hole event yesterday. And of course, initially, there had been some minutes that had come out, the Fed meeting minutes from the July 30th meeting, and they were released. And those minutes showed that the majority of Fed members saw inflation risks outweighing employment risks. So that would tend to lead towards no rate cuts in September. That was generally seen as bearish and led to downside in both the crypto and the stock markets. However, the July Fed meeting was just days before the catastrophic July jobs report. I wonder why they didn't wait for the jobs report, but anyway. So not only were expectations missed, but the May and June jobs numbers were revised down, minus 258,000. How can you get that so wrong? So Fed Powell's statement showed that their top priority, therefore, had shifted to supporting the labor market and put more of a priority on that than the inflation data. He went on to say that a shifting balance of risk may warrant adjusting policy, clearly referring to the labor market, and according to the Kabisi letter, jobs report will dictate the cuts going forward. So let's just unpack that for a moment before we get to the charts. Remember, the Fed's mandate is twofold. One, has a responsibility to the jobs market, employment data, and make sure that there is strong policy to support the job market. And then, of course, the other part of the dual policy is cutting inflation. Now, so this leads us to a few scenarios that could play out between here and the September 17th, 18th FOMC meeting and rate cut decision. Now, if CPI comes in or around where it's at the moment, which it has been doing for the last few months, fairly stable, no big high fluctuations to the upside. It's been on a downward trajectory, of course. And if that comes in, as we've seen it come in, and the jobs numbers continue to come in down, I think what I interpret from Fed Powell's speech is that their priority is with the jobs market, and the rate cut will be based upon that jobs market data. Now, of course, we still have another August jobs report to come out, and that I believe it's scheduled to come out in the first week of September, and the CPI number is scheduled to come out on, I believe it's September the 11th, okay, so a little bit after. Now, what could put the Fed in a pickle is this. What if the CPI number, because we had a high PPI number in August, which was July's number, and what if we get a high CPI number in September, which will be August's number? That could put them in a pickle. And what if jobs are also down? Therefore, there is a confliction there, and they have to choose which one to support. They can't support both, because clearly, if inflation is rising, they would normally not cut rates. But if unemployment is rising and jobs are plummeting, then that would need to cut rates. So they'll be in a bit of a pickle. Based on what I interpreted from Fed Powell yesterday, is that they would base the decision more so on the jobs that they were on inflation, but you just never know. Now, of course, what happens if job numbers come in good? What if the job numbers come in good and inflation is up? Obviously, I don't think they're going to rates, in my opinion. If job numbers come in good and inflation is lower than expected or comes in around, then they may not cut rates there either. But is the unemployment numbers for the months previous going to be enough? So this could change everything, but it may not change anything either. There are some more data sets to come in. So let's have a look at the charts. And of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think the data will come in next month and what you think the Fed will ultimately end up doing. All right, let's look at the Bitcoin charts first. So first and foremost, we saw Bitcoin shoot up on the news, the bullish, the dovish interpretation that the market took of that, and it shot all the way through the 9 EMA, the 50-day moving average, and the 20 EMA, and of course the 50 EMA on the daily. It shot through all of them, but currently it's already given back 3 of those and is currently sitting at the 50 EMA on the daily at the moment. So here's my plan for Bitcoin with some charts here. A hold of this level on the 50 EMA on the daily, there can be an entry here at this point. That would be called front running the trade. Sometimes that's better just to wait for the market to really digest what's happening and settle. And that's what I've done. And so there's an entry there, possibly on the 50 EMA on the daily, currently at 114,851. Now, of course, there's a moving average, so this price may have changed. Make sure you have that on the charts. And so that's a possible entry there. If that level holds, that would be front running the trade. If we were to lose that level and it continue to fall to the downside, you could actually open a short position and ride that. We likely could possibly come back to that $111,000 area. And I say an area, a general area in there, because there are a bunch of supports, moving averages. There's a wick over here at about even down to 110. So we could even go a little bit below 111. But for the meantime, this is holding. So there's no short at the moment. Of course, there was a short as soon as it lost the 50-day in those areas. You might have been sleeping while it happened, as I was. Okay, so that's the Bitcoin trade there. The other trade that you could possibly take, so I've given a long and a short off the 50 EMA. So that's the short to the downside. The target to the upside, well, if it continues, if it holds here and then reverses and starts to go back up and crosses back above the 9 EMA on the daily, that level is currently at $115,680. Okay. Second place you can take the long is at the 9 EMA on the daily. I just gave that number. And the third place you could take the trade would be either at the 20 EMA on the daily or the 50-day moving average. It's very hard to see those levels, but they're around about 116,300. You can get those up on your charts there and see those levels, and any break and hold above those levels. So those are 3 levels you can actually take the trade. You could actually add to the trade at each of these levels. And of course, the target to the upside would be back up to that $120,000 level. And a secondary target would be back to its all-time high there. So that's the Bitcoin trade. And actually, I gave an update in the Discord yesterday that Bitcoin is below the 9, the 20, and the 50, but expect a retest of the 9 EMA. Keep an eye for a reversal to retest the 9 EMA because Bitcoin was oversold, and I had a target to the downside of about 111. So I don't want people coming after me going, it didn't hit 111,000 on the button. I said about 100,000. So I wanted to make that clear. And look what happened yesterday. We came down and we hit 111,658, almost touched the 100-day moving average there, came very close to it. And then, of course, we came back up and retested the 9 EMA on the daily, exactly as I had stated, because Bitcoin, there's that little pink circle there that tells me that it's oversold. And so it happened exactly. It tagged about 111,000, and then it came back up and retested the 9 EMA. That's why it's so important. If you're in the Discord, read the daily updates. There is so much good information in there. And if, of course, you're not in the Discord, I'll give you an opportunity where a link where you can get on the wait list for that. All right, so that's Bitcoin. Let's look at Bitcoin dominance. Obviously, there is the tribal trades trend line. It held up for so long. And then, of course, it broke down and hit another tribal trades trend line down here. This is holding as support. We're either going to see it hug along here and the 9 EMA come down. At some point, it's going to come back up and retest the 9. Look what it did here. It broke below the 9, retest, reject, retest, reject, retest, fake out, reject, and then retest, reject, and then down to the downside. So either going to see it just hum along here and then eventually retest it at some point, which would mean altcoins might have a little bit of a pullback, but nothing major. However, if it shoots back up to retest it here, then I think we'll see a little bit of a drop, a further dip for the altcoin. So keep an eye on that level. On the Bitcoin dominance is at 58.33%, and the level above is close to where the 9 EMA is. 9 EMA is currently at 59.26, and the other level is 59.37. That's for your altcoins there. And of course, Ethereum was absolutely incredible, and that had a great move to the upside there. Look at that, came and it bounced off the 20 EMA on the daily, burst through the 9. Where would be a possibly new entry on that? If we did see a larger pullback, that would come back to the 9 EMA at 4465. If you want an entry there that is a little bit closer, if you want to get in a trade now, it's the 9 EMA on the 1 hour. That's currently at 4722, but it is below that. So we'd want to see that come up and above that level there, of course. And something in between is the 9 EMA on the 4 hour, which is at 4,635 currently. So there's a few entries for Ethereum, and you can play those levels both to the upside and to the downside as well. For example, if we come down to this level of 4634, if it loses that, you could take a short down to this target that I had identified here at 4,465. And that would be the same on the 9 EMA on the 1 hour. It's rejecting there. You could look to take a short if it continues to reject, but if it pushes through, you can take a long. And of course, if we do come all the way down to this fib level, which is also where the 9 EMA is, and it was to lose this level, you could continue to short it to the downside, down to the 20 EMA. And of course, there were some great plays in the crypto plays section. We did see this Ethereum trade to the downside here. Target to the downside was 4,000, and there it is there. ETH short entry on loss of 9 EMA down to 4,085. And that's what it came back to. Almost, it went a little bit lower, okay? It went down to 4,062 there. Jumping over here to the wins section, we had some great wins in the Tribal Trades wins section Discord. There we are, April Parker smashed it with $6,000 in stocks and crypto plays. Absolutely incredible there, what she is doing. And we also had her on one of the live sessions. So that's part of the Discord. Of course, we have live sessions 2 to 3 times a week with me. And we also did a special live session where April Parker shared all of her trade setups and what she's been doing. We also had the life-changing gains trading course, all the stocks and crypto plays, the general announcements channel. This is where I shared yesterday about Bitcoin hitting 111 and then going back up to retest the 9 EMA. And of course, the Tribal Trades indicator, one indicator to rule them all comes with the Tribal Trades Discord membership there. How can you get started with that? There is a link below in the description of this video. You might need to click the more button. That will pop out the description. That gets you on the wait list because the Discord is currently closed. It was, I opened it in January. I reopened it in June, and I will open up again this year. By the end of the year, I will open it again. How do you get priority access? By getting on the wait list. The sooner you get on the wait list, the sooner you can get access, because also if there is ever any a time where somebody is not able to renew their subscription, then simply I do move people from the wait list into the Discord, and I was able to do that for a few people this last week already. Okay, so there you go. That's all I have time for today. So of course, until the next episode, which will be tomorrow, the Stocks on Sunday show, and we'll unpack this all a little bit more and how it affects the stock market, or until I see you on the Discord, happy trading.